So, I mean, you talked about, building businesses, and being innovative and all of that. So there is this issue of, how limitless the opportunities are, when you use the internet and all of that. But in terms of literacy, like you said, there are places where, you don't have fiber optics and thereabout. So if you have places like that, and that means there is a likelihood that there are places where people are yet to even understand what the internet is. So talking about digital literacy, first, how literate would you say Nigerian businesses or businessmen or even Nigerians as a general are?
I mean, all over Nigeria, you can tell. It's no news that the skills gap is massive. It's a lacuna, right? And when we stay in Lagos, we are so comfortable with the statistics. 22 million Lagosians. We're excited that we see mobile phones everywhere, and we feel that there is penetration. Companies are still looking to Nigeria to say there is even more that needs to be done. There are countries of the world like Japan that have 92%, digital literacy rate. We have not even been able to scratch literacy as a concept, let alone moving on to digital literacy. So the gap is still massive. There is a vast majority of our population that is still not even literate, 12 million out of school children. And then before you then take it on to the issue of digital literacy, I go everywhere around the country talking to business people about how they need to move from traditional businesses and use technology to enable their work. And they ask you very quick questions. You're so smooth, you speak so fast and so cool. But we don't have internet access. We don't have the devices.
Exactly.
And that is why you have to take a step backward and say, you know what? It looks like our country is on a journey of digital transformation. Albeit, we need to move as fast as we can, or else we're going to be even further backwards.
Modibo, how do we bridge that gap?
Okay, yeah, I mean, there's one concept that people say a lot, which is like, a lot of African countries are leapfrogging. I mean, I like the concept of leapfrogging, which it may, but the truth about it is that you can't exactly leapfrog when you don't have structure. So like, I see it from that same perspective of the fact that before you even start leapfrogging anywhere, you have to solve basic things about like democratization of access to, education, for instance. Like you still have a lot of people that are cut out, that even if you decide to roll out a literacy program, for instance, you haven't even created the local networks where people themselves can actually have access to those resources. So for me, even before you start thinking about like how exactly do we roll out digital literacy, you have to think about what exactly is the system on the ground. Like how do I reach someone in far end Taraba? Like it's not just Lagos, right?
Yeah.
Like how do I actually get those people to come in? And what is really interesting is I have seen in terms of like people actually just being able to use the internet. You'll be surprised that you would say the onboarding process is really not as difficult as we think it is, right? I currently advise a company which is focused on ed tech, and then we actually went into like the rural communities, and then we just found out that once you just tell people what to do and tell them this is how it works, you'll be surprised that it just takes them a few minutes and they're like, okay, I think I can do certain things, and people were really surprising us with how they.
That means we need a lot more of these
Yes, we do.
advisors,
Yes, we
around the
do.
countries.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do.
So how do we do that? Because you were talking about what Galaxy Backbone is trying to do, with this partnership. I mean, are we going to build like an ICT university around the country? I mean, that has been in the works. You're talking about 6 ICT universities, in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. I mean, I don't know what the level of success that is having, but is that what we should be looking at so that we have more people, getting on board, like she said? I mean, just tell them what to do and then voila, they
Yeah,
surprise you.
there are a number of ways to go about this. I mean, I was on China's television some time ago talk about the ICT universities, but what I'm even most inspired about is the work that the Office of the Vice President, for example, is doing to set up innovation centers in 6 geopolitical zones. I've visited 3 of those myself, and in rural communities or in opportunity-deprived areas, so we don't call them rural communities. Like Akure, for example, there is a maker space that has just been set up by the Office of the Vice President with 3D printers to support people to be able to get access. So like Mo was just saying right now, you can help people who never have heard about web design, basic things. They've never done digital literacy. For the very first time, they're learning to do 3D design and 3D printing. Oh, there's one of them in Yola as well. These communities. So if we begin to spark up innovation like this, partnering with top organizations, software organizations around the country, who we are now as government inspiring to follow the already laid down roadmap and commitment by virtue of investment, which is like an example of the loan that has just been, signed and secured, and the commitment to work with international organizations to find more funding. So these private sector organizations begin to see that there's a roadmap on ground. We inspire the civil society, which is the third sector. Non-profit organizations are going to the interlands to show people how to use devices. I have a project, for example, that is training 50,000 girls in Bauchi who have never been literate. And these girls are supposed to be literate, and when they become literate and learn about basic literacy, English and mathematics, the next thing is for them to learn about computer science. And that's remarkable because that just opens to them a vista of opportunities for what they can be in life.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, so we're talking about that loan, the budgets, the ICT budget. I mean, people have been complaining about some loopholes here in that budget. So how well managed will this loan be? I mean, how well managed?
Well, I'm in no place to speak for government, but
I agree.
From what we've seen in the past,
exactly. So I was going to say
from what we've seen in the past, we haven't just been good managers as far as this country is concerned. And I'm hoping that because this is a loan, when it's a loan, it gives us a sense of responsibility, and it is being handled by some form of an hybrid organization, which is the Galaxy Backbone. It's like an agency of government, but it also has this feel of a private sector organization. And that partnership is between Galaxy Backbone and Huawei Technologies, rather. So if you have that kind of partnership that is overseen by private entities, you'd see some more level of responsibility. So I'm hoping that this is going to be channeled in the right direction for the infrastructure that it was meant for, and not for bailout of states, not for feeding people, basically for what we need. Because if we do it that way, I mean, a lot of people can argue what our priorities should be, but if we get infrastructure right, we are building a solid foundation for people to leapfrog, as Modele said.
Just hold your thoughts for a bit. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back shortly. Please don't go away.